would like to ask a question, please raise your hand or membership card. I'm going to go to a very quick member in the middle. Yes, yeah, let's see. Would you like to? And find the sliding fence that way. Face that way, yes. Okay.
So Ben, your argument was predicated entirely on Hamas, but thousands of Palestinians, including hundreds of minors and children, are being held hostage by Israel without any charge, with well-documentation of abuses, including sexual abuse, which Israel's own human rights organizations have reported. Hamas did not exist for decades after Israel's creation, and they're not in the West Bank. So, if you're going to be arguing about Hamas, how can we ignore that over 200 Palestinians have been killed, including over 40 children, making it the deadliest year for Palestinians in the West Bank before October 7th? That does not even include the killings happening now, just in 2023. So what justification do you have for that if Israel intends to, quote unquote, go after Hamas, is killing many people, especially children, under the justification of Hamas? So what justification do you have of them targeting the West Bank, even if we were to buy anything you said, which honestly I'm questioning?
Sure. So the casualties that have been incurred in the West Bank are prior to October 7th largely. There have been many since October 7th because there have been many conflagrations between the IDF and the Palestinian Authority and Islamic Jihad members in the West Bank. There's significant violence over the course of the early part of this year. There's a breakaway group from the Palestinian Authority. It's called the Lions. The Lions were a small terrorist cell, the Lions Den. They were committing acts of terror in places ranging from Jerusalem to areas of the West Bank. And the IDF was going in and making operational decisions to kill many terrorists in these areas. There are many areas in the West Bank that have been particularly infiltrated by terrorism. That the city of Jenin would be probably the example of the place that has been most infiltrated by terror groups. It's unfortunate, but Hamas is not the only terror group in the region. Palestinian Islamic Jihad is an excellent example of another terrorist group that has wide presence in the West Bank, more so actually than Hamas. There's a Palestinian Islamic Jihad rocket, obviously, that fell on that Gaza hospital. The entire world then tried to blame on Israel.
Okay, I'm allowed to respond, right? Okay. So if your entire argument, once again, is predicated on terror groups, what response do you have about the Great March of Return, which is a very well-documented incident where peacefully Palestinian civilians just marched to their own land that they have a right to go and return to, but they were killed, shot at, and murdered in cold blood?
What year are we talking about? Which group are we talking about? I need more specificity.
I'm talking about the Great March of Return.
I know I'm asking for more specificity because I'm unaware of all the details of what you're speaking about.
So the Great March of Return is a well-documented instance where many Palestinians, after a tweet by a Palestinian, encouraged other Palestinians to go march peacefully back to their land.
Which land is theirs? What are we talking about?
We're talking about occupied Palestine.
Are you talking about in proper Israel? Where are we talking about? Like which areas?
We're talking about on the borders of Palestine, and we're also talking about their right to return to Palestine.
There is no right to return. If you're talking about in Palestine, if you're talking about the land that is inside the 67 borders, there is no right of return to Haifa. There's no right of return to Tel Aviv. There's no right of return to West Jerusalem.
So you have to remember that there are many, many, many elders who are older than the state of Israel. You have to remember that Palestine is not a Muslim land. You are equating this to a religious conflict. It's not. When Palestine, before it was occupied, you had Jews, Christians, and Muslims peacefully coexisting. Palestine is not a Muslim homeland. It's a land that existed where many people that are alive to this day are older than the state of Israel.
So are you making the argument that any population of any time, all of their descendants now have a right to go back to the place that their great-great-great-great-great-grandfathers went?
Great-great-great-grandfather. We have grandmothers.
Okay, grandmothers, grandfathers. Is that the idea that you can walk across the lines of any sovereign state and simply claim the place that you said that you had, even though you never established property rights, and say the Jordanian West Bank, or you abandon this place in Haifa? So your claim is that right now people get to walk across the border of a sovereign nation and simply set up shop in Haifa? This is your claim?
So so even if we were to buy what you're saying, which is obviously not true, I encourage you to Google about the Great March of Return, which was a peaceful resistance against a wrongful occupation of Palestine. Even if you were to buy what you were saying.
Can you just define wrongful occupation? Which part of Palestine is occupied?
You're not answering my question.
I mean, I'd like you to answer mine.
Terror groups. I gave you an example of peaceful resistance.
Yes.
I'll give you an example where people were wrongfully shot at, including children, and you still can't answer about why that's justified.
So, if again,
You keep talking about Hamas and terror groups, and you gave examples of other terror groups, even though I gave you examples of civilians who marched and were shot at. But even now, a few days ago, you had Palestinian people living in Israel proper, which is occupied Palestine, who are being shot at by farmers in their gardens and in their farms. And those people are being able to get away with shooting them with total impunity. So why is it that
that's not true. Many of those people have been arrested. They're all currently sitting in Israeli jail.
The settler that just shot at a Palestinian
Have been
farmer
arrested.
was not arrested. I encourage you to look into this.
I did look into this morning. And can I please get one answer before you leave? Because this is an interesting conversation. Which part of Israel is occupied Palestine?
All of Israel?
There we go. There we go. There we go. So what you're calling for is the obliteration of the state of Israel, and all of this is just a cover for that. I appreciate your time.
And now, like, very cutting treasure.
Thank you, and may I first say thank you for coming to speak at the Oxford Union this evening. It's a real pleasure. I'm a theology student myself, and I was wondering, how do you reconcile your conservative political views?
Say into the microphone.
Sorry, yes.
Yeah.
How do you reconcile your conservative political views with the religious values of compassion and your own Jewish faith? And your stance on the Israeli-Palestine war?
I don't see why it's uncompassionate to call for the overthrow of Hamas, a terrorist group in the Gaza Strip, which has been oppressing its people and stealing billions of dollars from its own people. Ismail Haniyeh is living in a 5-star hotel in Qatar while his people are living in absolute misery because of a war that he initiated by killing 1,500 people inside Israel proper and then taking 233 hostages. I don't see why that's non-compassionate. It seems to me that compassion also requires that you obliterate terrorist threats to your own population.
Thank you. I'll go to the member in the corner here.
Can you all hear me? All right, what about now? So we'll get speak. Okay, I'll speak up. I'll try my best. Hello, Ben. It's good to see you. I've been watching you since 2015. You started my conservative journey, and here we are. I saw, unfortunately, you had to bring some pretty gruesome photos, and I have to say I hope those photos aren't real, and I have my doubts because recently you posted an AI-generated image of a charred infant corpse.
No, I didn't. That is a lie. That is untrue. It was not an AI photo. It was not an AI photo. It was distributed by the Israeli government and the Prime Minister of Israel. It was verified by the United States government. That fake community note that said that it was an AI-generated photo was in fact taken down by Twitter because it was a fake community note. That is unfortunately not an AI-generated photo. I wish it were. It was a baby obliterated beyond recognition because it had been burned to death.
So is it the word of the IDF in Israel versus the word of
No, actually, it's the photo. It's the actual camera footage taken by GoPro cameras by Hamas terrorists as they invaded Israel proper. I don't have to take Israel's word for it. A lot of this stuff was live streamed.
So, to what extent, as you're posting to social media, are you willing to make sure the information you're posting is accurate, to not exchange the truth for giving aid to Israel?
I'm certainly doing my damn best. I mean, there's a lot of information flowing around. I'm doing my best. On that one, for sure, 100%. It is a lie that is an AI-generated photo. That is not true in any way, shape, or form. And it shows how it does show how we live in a very dangerous era where anybody can, I mean, this is happening on a routine basis. You're seeing, for example, some of the pictures, they're horrible pictures coming out from Gaza, and a huge number of those are, of course, absolutely real. You're also seeing people who are repurposing pictures that are taken from Syria and then saying those are happening in Gaza. So, yeah, unfortunately, there is a lot of information that's floating around that is hard to kind of lock down and verify. That picture is 100% real, unfortunately.
I sympathize with you because as AI gets more advanced, it becomes increasingly hard to discern information. So I know you bear a lot of
I mean, this is going to be a serious problem as time goes on. Seriously, like the flow of information is going to be more and more uncertain because of that. That I agree with on a general level.
Awesome. Thank you for your time.
Okay, I love the last conversation. It was, everyone was just airing the view, and it wasn't like anyone was shouting for each other. But let's go back to the dialogue, Ben had with these guys. I think the first lady was talking about how the march, and you don't just march into a country claiming that your forefathers were there. Like, to me, I feel it does not make sense. There are ways you approach things, there are dialogue you use. You don't march in there if you're a foreigner and start claiming their land. They are going to, send you out. First of all, I don't think they will start shooting at you and unaliving people. They are going to warn you to leave. It's when you keep on persisting, that is when they will defend their home. And I think that is what happened. And I don't know if that is even true. But if I'm just saying with common sense, almost everywhere in the world, people migrate. And when you migrate, you build a territory, you get a home and you call that your home. I'm currently in Nigeria. I'm a Nigerian, but I'm based in Ghana. And if I should go to Ghana and buy a land and I own the land and I give birth, my grandchildren stay there, and the country decide that they are revoking my license to have the land, I'll go back to my country, which is Nigeria. But if a new democracy happened there and they say everyone in the country now would become a Ghanaian, and I'm a Ghanaian and I stayed there for years, someone is not going to leave Nigeria and come to Ghana and tell me I was once here before, leave this place, it's mine. No, because I've been given the right to be there. So this is what I think those people that are marching there are supposed to do. If you feel like you want to claim Israel, then do that the right way. At least pass through the legislative arm or the judiciary arm, or, we have the United Nations, whereby you can bring your plea to, and they'll find a way to resolve this. But I think going there that the whole of Israel belongs to you because your forefathers lived there also is I won't just use any inappropriate word, but I feel that it does not make sense. You don't just claim a place simply because you feel or you because of story that your forefathers lived there. Currently, people are living there. You can't just ask them to get out or leave. And that is what I feel Hamas are trying to do. Based on the October 7, massacre, I felt so bad for those people, like for the Israelis, because you came there when they were celebrating and you unalive so many people and you flee, which if you feel what you are doing is right, you're not supposed to flee, because you guys have already signed a peace accord that there will be ceasefire and you broke it. And now you are complaining, you are crying, you are saying, you're bringing out footages that Israel are doing this, Israel, but you are not saying what you did to them. For every action, there is a reaction. It was that October 7 action that provoked Israel and made them to react. So at least say the truth. These guys were not doing anything to, anyone. They were just living in peace, after the peace accord, ceasefire, they were all living in peace until October 7. That is why they went back. They were like, since you guys have violated the peace, we are going to continue from where we stopped. And now everyone is shouting, they're calling Israel the bad people. Anyway, this is beautiful. Let me know what you think in the comment section. If it is the first time visiting the channel, click on the subscribe button. Thanks for watching and remain blessed.